All right, it is 6 p.m. on this August 9th. I'll call the town council meeting to order. Recognize there is a quorum present. Welcome all those in attendance and those who are tuned in online as well. Ms. McKay, can we have a roll call, please?
Mrs. Amos,
Here.
Mr. Reed,
Here.
Mr. Dwyer,
Here.
Mr. Parrott,
Here.
Mr. Yolen,
Here.
Mr. Hunter,
Here.
Mr. Hardy.
Here. Thank you. Next, we'll have the invocation led by me. You're welcome to join if so inclined, or not to if so inclined. And then Vice Mayor Reed will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. All right. First item is the adoption of the agenda. Do I hear a motion to adopt the agenda as presented?
I make a motion to adopt the agenda as presented.
Second.
Motion and second. All in favor? Those opposed? Ayes have it. Next up, do we have anyone who wishes to make a declaration of personal interest concerning anything on the agenda tonight? Not hearing any. We will move into a brief presentation of a proclamation before the public hearing. And this is a proclamation in recognition of April as National Poetry Month. I see Ms. Vicki Page in the audience. And so the proclamation reads, whereas the Academy of American Poets established the month of April as National Poetry Month in 1996, and whereas National Poetry Month seeks to highlight the ongoing achievement of American poets by introducing Americans to the pleasures and benefits of reading poetry, by bringing poets and poetry to the public in immediate and innovative ways, and by making poetry an important part of our children's education. And whereas as National Poetry Month, under the leadership and direction of the Academy of American Poets, is now the largest literary celebration in the world, and whereas poetry enriches the lives of all Americans, and whereas poetry, as an essential part of the arts and humanities, affects every aspect of life in America today, including education, the economy, and community pride and development, and whereas poetry has produced some of the nation's leading creative artists and has inspired other artists in fields such as music, theater, film, dance, and the visual arts, and whereas National Poem in Your Pocket Day will be celebrated on April 17th, poems will be available at Farmville downtown businesses and at Centra Hospital. Now, therefore, it is proclaimed by the Mayor and Town Council that the month of April be recognized as National Poetry Month in the town of Farmville, Virginia, in honor of poets across America who share their talent with the world. In witness whereof, I have hereunto set my hand and caused the seal of the town of Farmville, Virginia, to be affixed on this 9th day of April in the year of 2025. And Ms. Vicki Page, if you like, I'll present it to you.
Thank you so much, Mayor. I appreciate you doing this.
Absolutely. Anytime.
Thank you so much.
All right, thank you. Next up, we have the public hearing for the notice of proposed real property tax increase. For anyone who is new, I'll state the public comment period. We have 3 minutes. Please state your name, your address, and then address the body as a whole. Ms. McKay, do we have anyone signed up for the public hearing at this time?
Patrick Carwile.
Hello, how's everybody doing today? So just a few things that just called in the Farmville Herald this week more about what we're here for tonight is the tax increase that you guys are going to be discussing and talking about. Some things that are more questions than really debates. Are we looking at doing a tax assessment before Prince Edward finishes their reassessments, or we wait until after we hear back from the Prince Edward reassessments to figure out what that looks like? Have we looked at, reducing that tax by increasing other things in the town limits opposed to just increasing the tax? Because there's a lot of counties that are coming to Farmville for a lot of their needs, and it seems like the increase for the town is being put on the people that live in the town alone. Are we being proactive or reactive to the needs? And 9 cents per hundred just seems like a steep hike in a short amount of time. And one thing that's going to affect is the rentals in town as well as a lot of other things, because landlords are going to pass that on to their tenants as well. So just a few things there that I'd like to, think about when we're talking about tax increases. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. McKay?
No one else has signed up.
No one else signed up? All right. Next up is the public comment period, which is a general public comment period. Same outline. Please limit comments to 3 minutes. State your name and address when you come up. Ms. McKay, do we have anyone signed up for public comment?
Vicki Page.
Ms. Page.
I come bearing gifts. As the mayor read the proclamation, it was mentioned that Poem in Your Pocket Day is going to be celebrated on April 17th. I have this little flyer was distributed at the library and around some of the businesses. Before I begin, I want to thank all those who were able to attend the breakfast that the library had last month. I hope that those in attendance, it helped further your knowledge and awareness of how tax dollars that are allocated to the library are used in service to the citizen. Secondly, happy National Library Week to everyone. And then Poem in Your Pocket Day, as the mayor said, is going to be celebrated on April 17th. This is our 9th year in doing that. 29 local businesses in downtown Farmville are participating, as well as Central Southside Hospital and 3 libraries, Farmville, Greenwood, and Bortz Library. And for the first time this year, we're going to have 5 local poets with poems who have donated poems, and these are poets that have published works. Approximately 800 poems have been selected, rolled, and ribboned for distribution. Also going on this week is the Friends of the Library book sale. That's going to be going on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. Thursday night is people who are members of the Friends of the Library, so it's like a private sale. That's one of the bennies for being a friend of the library. And then Friday and Saturday are the book sale is open to the general public. And then in furtherance of National Poetry Month, on April 18th, the Barbara Rose Johns Farmville Prince Edward Community Library will show the movie Dead Poets Society starring Robin Williams in celebration of National Poetry Month. And the Friends of the Library will provide refreshments for the event. So I'm giving you all a sneak preview of Poem in Your Pocket Day. Blue papers are the poems from the local poets, and then purple are choose your own poison. So pass those around and hope everybody enjoys their sneak preview of Poem in Your Pocket Day. Does anybody have any questions?
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
All right, as the poems make their way around, the next item on the agenda is the consent agenda. We have the draft minutes of the 2025-0305 work session, 0312 regular council meeting, and 0321 special called meeting. We've had those minutes. If there's no changes to the minutes, do I hear a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented?
So move. Second.
Motion and second. All in favor? Aye. Those opposed? Ayes have it. Next up is the finance report. Ms. Julie Moore, are you giving the finance report?
Good evening. You have the March finance report in front of you. For the ABM project, we earned $4,506, and it's down significantly because we made another big payment to ABM. And we also earned $14,877 with VIP, $7,827 with benchmark sweep accounts, and $37,559 with LGIP. So for the month of March, we earned $60,263. And if you also noticed, for your council restricted, you're almost at the 2.5 million. I think 3 more payments and you'll be at the 2.5 that we had agreed upon for the sewer fund. Any questions?
Any questions at this time for Ms. Moore?
Thanks.
Thank you. That brings us to the approval of the March 2025 finance report. Do I hear a motion to approve the finance report as presented?
I move that we approve the finance report as presented.
Second.
Motion and second. All in favor? Aye. Those opposed? Ayes have it. We don't have any old business at this time, but we do have new business. First item is regarding resolution number 2025-0401, authorizing the addition of the administrative and collection fees to delinquent accounts. This was from our work session. Is there any discussion or a motion on that item?
I'll make a motion, we adopt resolution 2025-0401.
Second.
Motion and second. Any additional discussion at this time? Ms. McKay, can we have a roll call, please?
Mr. Reed,
Yes.
Mr. Dwyer,
Yes.
Mr. Parrott,
Yes.
Mr. Yolen,
Yes.
Mr. Hunter,
Yes.
Mr. Hardy,
Yes.
Mrs. Amos.
Yes.
The motion passes.
Thank you. Next up is the establishment of the real estate tax rate, which is probably why most folks are here for calendar year 2025. Do we have any additional discussion at this time concerning the proposed tax rate?
Yeah, one quick question. We are making a rather large change in a short amount of time. Is there a possibility that we can increase this over a 3-year period, much the same way we changed the 8,500 stipend in lieu of the insurance program over a 3-year period? Is that something that we can have a discussion about or talk about with anybody? Or anybody curious about that, perhaps?
We would have to change the budget for 3 years, and that's impossible to do.
Right.
We'd have to change the budget for 3 years.
We can't just do the whole, over the next 3 years, we're going to increase just 4% per year.
You would, every year, you would have to go through the same process.
Has to have a public hearing and
Every
everything?
year.
Okay.
Is there anything we can cut from the budget right now and maybe save a couple of few cents? And I realize, and Dr. Davis and I did discuss this today, and the whole point of, and I loved Adam's idea too, and I know it's the pull the Band-Aid off while we pull it off, and I don't really like pulling the Band-Aid off, but, you know, is there anything that we can cut out of the budget and save a few cents in the budget?
Originally, I said that I didn't know if we needed to add that part to recreation, which we could cut out. But after thinking about it and hearing from other people, they seem like they want to get something if their tax rate is increasing.
I think we ought to cut the exercise.
I know there are other things in the future that would be more beneficial. I think that I saw in a basketball court and some things like that, which I think would maybe garner a little bit more use. And if we can save a little now and then put money aside for that future better use things, I don't know. I'm just spitballing here.
What about the firehouse? What about waiting on the firehouse? Is that a possibility?
To
I'm
me,
just
that would,
just throwing that out
yeah,
there.
waiting on the firehouse would be waiting on the benefits for the town employees. When I first introduced it, it would have been a certain price in 2004. Coming back, and when we finally got it, it doubled, almost tripled the price. So it's the same thing with the firehouse. Those prices are going to increase, and they're increasing every day. And as we're getting things in the prices, I mean, they can tell you, the prices are just increasing. We know prices are increasing on everything. I wouldn't want to do anything to the firehouse but proceed. I'd rather knock it down and build a new one, but we don't have the funds for that.
So what if we cut out the exercise grant? What would we save?
$274,000. I don't know if that's the exact number, but around that number.
273.
So, I mean, 20 cents.
Right, it would knock you down to 20 cents, from 22 to 20 cents. So you'd save yourself 2 cents. I would agree, you know, like we were just talking about this earlier, you know, localities that are facing budgetary issues, and we were just talking about the news that came out of the town of Purcellville where they cut their entire police department to save themselves $3 million. They cut their entire police department. You know, like there are councils making interesting decisions in these times, and when I think about, like, for me personally, you know, my house assessment was up 34%. My adjoining piece of property, which is land, was up 43%. So I'll probably, if 22 cents were to go through, I would pay an additional $26 a month for insurance, which is, or for tax. So $26 extra a month. It's about $210 a day. It's not fun to think about. It's not enjoyable to think about. But if I think about a Farmville fire department that is more set up for full-time firefighters, 24-hour fire service, and the benefit that brings for safety to homeowners in the town, then I start to feel a little bit like, all right, maybe I can do it. And that would be my only thing on the firehouse is it will go up if we wait. Just like that's what Purcellville is facing, is they deferred a bunch of infrastructure improvements. And those deferments have built up, and now there's a higher cost, and they can't afford to do any of them. And they did something rather drastic, which I can't even fathom. But
That's one of my only fears is the infrastructure is that can we wait, and can we wait on a couple of items next year or the year after and put some extra money aside? Because I feel like this year we've had a lot of water leaks, and I'm afraid that something's going to happen and we are going to be in that situation in our water sewer system. And, you know, darn, I wish we hadn't have bought this, or I wish we hadn't have bought that. We could have had more money set aside for those things this year, and that could be earning interest. And that's just my thoughts.
The water fund's separate from most of the expenses in the general fund, as far as the capital, what we're talking about, equipment purchases.
I understand that.
Okay.
And I know that money is it's not done like it was used to be. Not done like it used to be done, and we're doing it the way, the money is done the way it's, oh, you know what I mean. The money is handled the way it should be handled, and that's awesome. I just want to be prepared for those things, and if an emergency comes up, I know you say it's done out of the water fund and the sewer fund, but if those don't have enough, where's it coming from? If we had extra in the general fund in the long-term goals, then maybe that would be, I'm just trying to think about ways to save money and put money aside for an emergency situation.
My 2 cents on it would be to leave the fire department plans as they are. I think that it seems to me sometimes postponing things, thinking that the future might be brighter, is a very optimistic view. We don't have a crystal ball, and I think sometimes if you're saying, well, let's not, let me use an example, let's not buy 3 police cars, or rent or lease 3 police cars, let's postpone that to next year, and then let's say next year is tight, and then it's not there, then what, it's, how do you ever catch up, would be my concern. I just don't, I just think we would, the only thing I would think is, like others, I mean, the fitness pad or whatever, I mean, it's expendable. On the other hand, I don't know right off how much we're getting a grant for that, Mr. Davis, is, how much of the total cost are we paying?
So
Roughly.
the grant that comes from NFC is, well, it's not. NFC, National Fitness Group, they team with insurance companies, as I've said before. Aetna is giving $30,000 off the top. And then it's up to localities to look at other partners. But the way this works is we do plan to put in for a grant through Centra. No guarantee we get it. We won't know until October. So we have to budget as if we're going to pay the whole thing in hopes that we get additional partners to pay towards this. That's the reason the full amount's in there, is because we don't know for sure. So if they don't come through, if these grants don't come through, additional ones, or support from other community organizations, then it would be on us. So it has to be in there for that purpose.
Thank you.
Wouldn't mind just circling back just for the public's information. Mr. Hardy raises a point about the enterprise funds, and the reference is that even when I first came on council in 2018, we used to supplement the general fund budget from those enterprise funds. So your enterprise funds are water and sewer, which are utilities that we have. And we would take money from the rates charged to citizens from the enterprise funds to make our general fund whole. So if there was a deficit, we would take up, I mean, there was times we took $1 million, 600 out of, I think in 2022, we took 600 out of water and 400 out of sewer to make the general fund whole. That hasn't happened last year, and it's not in this budget this year either. Why would you try to do that? You're trying to do that so those enterprise funds are whole in case there is an emergency, then you can address them. We've seen, at least in a neighboring locality, Richmond, deferred some infrastructure, and there was some pretty severe repercussions. Oftentimes, those things don't make themselves apparent until it's an ugly situation. But yeah, just a little backstory on the enterprise funds and why this is only the second year in our budget that the general fund has not been subsidized by the enterprise fund in that fashion.
I just want to clarify too, this also has to do with our bond rating as well, is that we tied this together. There's a increase in the real estate property tax, and that is something that the agencies look at as a sustained financial stable finances for our town. It gives us a higher bond rating, which in essence gives us a better interest rate when we go to secure the loans for the fire department and the new truck. That's correct?
That is correct. The more you can show revenue from a stable line item than a variable line item, they do look at that. When the stable amount is predominantly less than your variable taxes, then they question, will you be able to, if you had some issue occur, just like we shared with you all after last week's questions from Mr. Hardy, and you had asked Mr. Yolen for, over the last several years, a fluctuation in meals, lodging, and sales tax. And you could see when the world shut down for COVID, the difference that made in some of those variable revenues. Same thing happened. I don't have the accounts from back then. I wasn't here then. It's a little ways to go back, but I'm pretty sure when we hit the recession in 2008, it probably occurred during that time as well. So with a stable tax group, such as your real estate tax, you are able to have some guaranteed revenue.
I think, and just for, once again, and I apologize if it's things that the public already knows, but, you know, over a year ago, we had Davenport come in and give a presentation about where the town stood financially and looking at bond rating. And one of the things was that we were overly dependent on variable taxes. And so, you know, the real estate tax rate would provide a solid floor for that bond rating. And if you can get a better bond rating, to Mr. Yolen's point, you get better rates on infrastructure projects going forward. So it's really a forward-thinking look at the town and where we want to go that drives that conversation. And it's not, you know, we started talking about this on council when we did go through COVID and we saw the effect that the variable tax dependence left us. And there was a conversation about this in January when we were at Virginia Local Government Day. We knew that the subject of the fire department was coming up. And I remember saying, you know, this is going to put us in a bind because we're going to have an uncomfortable conversation about real estate taxes. And that was in January. And I can remember Mr. Hardy commenting, well, you know, at least if we build up the fire department, maybe it potentially offsets and gives like some homeowner insurance breaks to folks because now you have a more robust public safety component. And I don't know the veracity of that, but I do know that looking at the numbers the other night, my wife asked how much the fire department does. And I think for last year, 2024, they answered over 1,600 calls. The closest to that was Hampton-Sydney, which I think was 722, if numbers jump in my head correctly. So we were over double that. If you combined all the rest of the fire departments in Prince Edward County, they didn't add up to what the Farmville Fire Department answered. So it is a busy department, and they do an excellent job. But right now, we've got female firefighters who, if they want to shower after a fire, have to have people stand outside the men's restroom and guard the door so that they can do so. And we have firefighters who are seeking to shed the toxins of fighting fires and apparatus cleaning in environments that aren't conducive as easily to that. And so as we think about moving towards a more professional firehouse, that's where this renovation and expansion conversation comes from.
I want to jump back on the bond for a second, and I know that you said that Davenport came in and we would get, right now we stand to get one type, one level, and if we were able to increase our constant taxes, I don't remember what, I know it's not variable, I forget the word. Fixed, thank you. Our fixed taxes, then we might get a higher bond rating. Is there a reason why we haven't gone to get our bond rating before now? I mean, are we waiting till we can get a better bond rating, or, and how does that process work as far as cost of the bond rating and how much savings in interest rate would it be for us? I know it's several questions. What's the savings on interest roughly for having a big A, little a compared to just a big A? And why don't we just go ahead and get our bond rating and start saving more than we are right now, since we don't have a bond rating?
So I can't tell you what the savings will be until we go to market. You don't know what the interest is. Correct me if I'm wrong, Julie. You can help me. So the town has never been to a rating agency to get rated. Any of the bonds in the past have been done grouped and with other localities as a whole. By doing a bond rating, it shows, once again, your financial ability and what you can do by rating agencies. We would be going to Standard & Poor's and Moody's. We would not be going to Fitch. They're a little finicky. No pun intended with the F. But the two would rate, and then that's what we would go to market based on those ratings with our bond. But we don't know what that is because it constantly changes. Our goal is to go in October.
Is there, what is that?
But
Is that budgeted in this budget year for going? I know there's a cost associated with that. Is that
It's rolled into the bond? All of the costs are rolled into the bond. When you do the bond, all your costs are involved in that.
Including getting a bond rating?
Everything's included in that. You don't pay out of pocket for doing that. You would, if you were going just to get rated, yeah, you're gonna have to pay out of pocket. But the whole process is you factor in all of those costs. The underwriter, the attorney drawing up the documents, all that is in the fees within the bond. And then it goes to market and it's purchased.
Can I go back for a little bit? Because we allowed some of our revenue to go across the street. And I just want to put a reminder in there of that. When we had the ICA as part of giving us $1 a day per detainee for over the years, is there any way you could tell us what our highest years are and what our lowest were off the top, if you remember anything, Dr. Davis? Or roughly a month worth?
I do remember it when I first got here. Maybe we hit like the $200,000 to $250,000 a year, and at the end it was in the. Don't hold me to this, please. In like 150 or less, but they couldn't house but so many people because of different issues.
That's true. But just a reminder that that's part of our revenue that's gone for everyone that we all voted to let it go. So just a reminder that we're not wasting money. We got rid of something that everybody wanted us to do.
So, Dr. Davis, you presented the proposed budget to us, and you mentioned us buying a dump truck. And so that's $225,000. And so in the proposed budget, we have a new garbage truck, a dump truck, and a garbage truck. Is that wrong?
Garbage truck was the budget year we're in now.
the only line you need to look at is the manager proposed
Okay.
column.
So how many dump trucks do we have? What's the difference between a dump truck and a garbage truck?
Garbage, we only have 3 garbage trucks. They collect garbage and recycling. A dump truck is what we do for spring and fall cleanup, streets, brush removal, water and sewer,
Yeah.
I mean, those types of things.
So that's definitely a necessity then? I was confused just looking at this. This is definitely, the $225,000 dump truck is a necessity for this year.
Yeah, remember, we talked about this before. The dump truck, the frail tractor mower.
I remember
5 police cars, all of that is in a lease purchase.
Yeah, okay.
That's revenue and expenditure. It nets 0. If you cut any of it, all you're doing is just cutting services.
I didn't remember the dump truck was the part of that lease. Okay, all right. Thank you. Thank you for clarifying.
Can you please clarify the difference between everybody, because you and I had this discussion today. Can you please clarify to everybody here and listening and watching and what you mean by lease/lease purchase compared to you go lease a BMW or a Toyota or whatever, and then you turn it back in? Can you please
Yeah, it's
just
not,
explain
it's not,
that?
It's not that type of lease. It is, we go out and put out an RFP, we go through, VML Vaco. And they put out, and then you have different banks or other entities that come back with rates. It's more, that's why I said it, we call it a lease purchase, it's a loan, in essence. The lease purchase, because the original one we looked at probably 5 years ago, Chief, was through Enterprise, and theirs was a true lease purchase. In other words, you had them, and then when it was up, you gave them back to them. They sold it and gave you money off the next ones that you got, right? So we use that term, but it's really a loan, in that we don't have the cash today to buy all of the capital needs that we have. This with all of those that we're talking about, it's $954,000. But we can afford that over a 5-year period than we can buying each one of them today. And so that's why we do that process. The other part of why we did that is we would go 12 years or more before we got a police car. And we were buying them one at a time.
Or they would be
Or
used.
and we couldn't buy them at a time. And so and then we were getting nothing back from them when we went to sell them at auction. So now if we have this plan we came to council with this plan, is that if you buy them every 5 years and you're rotating them out. So I think after this year, we should have replaced almost our whole fleet, because this is, I think, the 4th or 5th year we've done it. Then when that next time comes around, we get rid of the ones that we started with, and we'll be able to sell them at a much higher value than we would with 150,000 miles, 200,000 miles, and the age that they used to be. That we would make money back in order to cover the leases or the loans.
And that's where you had said the other night that it was a wash, and it truly is. I didn't get that at the time, and this is where this explanation helped me when we talked today. And I think it would help. It should help other people to understand that it is kind of a wash. We're not, and I talked to Julie for a minute before. It is not like we're borrowing the money, but it still has to go in and out of the budget, even though where the money comes in from the bank, we pay the cars, but we still owe the bank. and the payments are every year. So I just wanted to make sure people understood that, because I didn't understand it very well, and I'm usually pretty decent with numbers, so.
If we eliminate the exercise facility and drop the rate to 20 cent, will we have enough money to be able to get the bond and do the firehouse at that point? If we did that, would we be able to achieve what we want to achieve at that rate?
The budget would still be balanced with the GO bond in there for the firehouse, yes.
Are there other options to create revenue for the town? I know it's water and sewer, and we need to, this is Tommy's big thing that he always worries about, is the water and sewer. Can we even go up a teeny bit, just a teeny bit on that at some point? And I know it's not going to the general fund, but I'm talking about for that infrastructure that we are going to need in the future, you know, and I'm not saying, and I'm not asking for an answer to that question right now, but that's something just for us to think about, and for me to think about and you to think about.
It's already in our plans. It's probably within the next 2 years, we'll be asking for a rate increase for that purpose, for continuing to operate the plants and to do capital infrastructure, because the costs will increase. We haven't done it in 3 years. We haven't increased water and sewer rates in 3 years. So within the next 2, it'll be needed.
I'm going to make a side comment to Sally's comment in regards to the exercise court. We can do away with it, and I think it would, as you said, bring it down to 20 cents. The only thing that I think about is, will we have the opportunity to do this again at the price at which we're being offered now? It won't get any cheaper, that's for sure. And whether or not we'll be able to qualify for this fund grant program again is another big question mark. And I'm just talking out loud about this because I'm not sure that we want to give up something that will benefit the town itself. It's just a side comment.
I agree with you, Mr. Parrott. But also, it's just like the dump truck that's 20 years old. And over the years, we tried to replace the dump truck, but we never had the funds to replace it. So then Scott came up with this, Dr. Davis came up with this idea to replace the truck by us not spending our own money directly, but indirectly. We can get a new truck, not have to worry about it breaking down, and still moving forward. I see no padding in this budget, and I also see the projections of revenue. We ought to commend Dr. Davis and his staff for what they presented. I realize all the questions that we come up with, which everything is good. Everybody has a good question. But I don't want to leave that out there to say that I appreciate what y'all presented to us. And if it isn't any more questions, or if it is, we can move on, or if it's not, you can call for a vote.
Well, that's to the discretion of the council, but if there are any more discussions, there is a request to adopt the ordinance number 239 on the table.
I'll make a motion we adopt ordinance 239 to establish the real estate property tax for the calendar year 2025.
Second.
Motion and second. Any additional discussion at this time? Ms. McKay, can we have a roll call, please?
Mr. Dwyer,
Yes.
Mr. Parrott,
Yes.
Mr. Yolen,
Yes.
Mr. Hunter,
Yes.
Mr. Hardy,
I'm going to say no.
Mrs. Amos,
No.
Mr. Reed.
Yes.
On a vote of 5 to 2, the motion passes.
Thank you. Mr. Davis, Town Manager's report.
We had some, Mr. Hunter, I think Ms. Austin told me that the tires are being cleaned up.
They are a little bit at a time, but they're starting to roll.
We are still working with Hill Studios to receive stamp drawings for the Lions Park bathroom, and then they'll go out to bid hopefully in the next month, and then we'll be moving on then with the construction of that. Just so you know, that's in the current year budget. That's not for next year. That's in the current year. Y'all appropriated that already. And just to remind y'all, that's part of our work plan that was adopted. I did an inquiry into the sidewalk study, which is part of our work plan. But at this time, that was one of the things that was deferred already in this coming 26 budget. But hopefully in 27, we'll be able to move forward with that. I did coordinate a meeting with Southside Virginia Community College and the Mary Branch Heritage Group to look at how they could collaborate, one, in assisting them in hopefully being able to bring that building back to life, but also with Southside Virginia College being able to look at using a portion of it with them agreeing in order to offer maybe more CTE type courses in this area instead of students from Cumberland and Prince Edward County having to travel to Keysville or South Hill or those types of places. So it was myself, Mr. Stanley from the county that worked on this, and actually Dr. Jones from Cumberland, who's going to be with Prince Edward here pretty soon, brought all of us to the table. And so that was, I think, a really good discussion between those two groups. That's part of the work plan too. Also, we're working with Civic Plus on revamping the website currently. And then I have a revised lease for the airport. I've given that to Mr. Elder, who has blessed it. And so I'm hoping to bring that to y'all in the work session in May to get your feeling on those updates and changes, which is part of the work plan as well. So make sure y'all writing this down and checking it off, that we're meeting some of those things. That's all I have, Mayor.
All right, thank you, Mr. Davis. Mr. Hardy?
Really quick, riding around town the other day, I noticed that the charge stations are covered in plastic bags.
They're actively working to get those up and running. I will tell you, we've had the last 2 months conversations deep into that, in that when it was engineered in the preliminary stages, they did not give them the correct specs for the conduit. So this past week, they ran new conduit at the farmer's market. They did not take into consideration the amperage properly at the train station, not train station, the plaza bathrooms. So they're looking at how they can deregulate the level 3, still charge faster, but not at a level 3 speed, to make those amps work for what box we have there, instead of having to run a new source from Dominion underneath where it comes from behind, I think, Walker's Diner. But it's being actively, it should be progressing pretty well here pretty soon, that it's going to be open.
And just one more thing, I wanted to commend the employees yet again for the cleanup after all the storms and stuff we've had, and picking up the limbs and everything like that. I know that's a lot of hard work and a pain in the neck, but it's very, very, very much appreciated. I've heard from several people.
Oh, that reminds me, spring cleanup is May the 12th. Thank you, Mr. Hardy. Was one of
have
the
your
things I
stuff
meant
out
to put
by
on.
7:30 a.m. on the 12th, correct?
Yes.
Mr. Hunter?
I have nothing.
Mr. Yolen?
Nothing now, but thank you, everyone, for coming out tonight and supporting and participating.
Mr. Barrett?
I would like to send a special thank you to our finance department, our town manager, to all the people that have been involved with this tax increase. This is not something that went lightly at all. It's been a lot of discussion, a lot of fretting over it, but I want to thank them because they're the ones that had to do the work in order for us to be able to look at our finances, to be able to see where we were and what we needed. And I thank you for that.
Mr. Dwyer?
Mr. Perry makes a very good point. I think what we did tonight was, it's a large tax increase, but I truly believe it's strengthening our town as an organization. If next year happens to be tough, what we did today will be more important, I believe. But also, thank you to staff.
Mr. Reed?
Nothing today.
Ms. Amos?
Nothing, excuse me.
I'll conclude with thanking the staff as well and our employees, public safety, public works. We have a lot of dedicated employees in this town who work really hard to keep it where it is, and it's a testament to what a great place this is. There was a recent article that got published about what a beautiful town this is to live in and to recreate in and to play in. As Mr. Parrott alluded to, these decisions aren't made lightly. And this council is trying to take an intergenerational look at Farmville and where it goes. And I want to commend them for dealing with a tough issue. I could easily sit up here and say, I don't have to vote, and walk away from that. But I support the decision that was made here because I think, as hard as it was the right decision. There's a majority of this council who voted not only to give themselves a pay cut, but also to increase their own taxes as well. My wife last night gave me a wicked tongue lashing because I advocated for a pay cut for myself and was thinking we were going to get a tax rate increase. And she said, this public service thing isn't working out. Doesn't seem to be working out for us. But that's not why we're here. We're not here for ourselves. We're trying to make broad decisions, and they're not always easy. So we appreciate you being here. We appreciate those who spoke and those who have reached out to us. Please continue to engage. And with that, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Those opposed? Ayes have it. Thank you.